The little girl America can't forget? Will JonBenét Ramsey's killer ever be found? Before we dive in, kindly hit the subscribe button and let us know where you are watching from in the comment. December 25th, 1996. Boulder, Colorado. Snow blanketed the quiet streets. Christmas lights blinked gently in the night. Families were tucked inside warm homes. Laughter, presents, fires crackling. But inside one house on 15th Street, a storm was brewing. The Ramseys had money, influence, prestige. John Ramsey was the CEO of a billion-dollar tech company. Patsy Ramsey, a former beauty queen, was now a stay-at-home mom. And their daughter, JonBenét, she was just 6. Blonde curls, blue eyes, a beauty queen like her mother. She lit up rooms. She sang. She danced. She smiled for cameras. Pageants loved her. Judges adored her. She was a child star in a world she didn't fully understand. That Christmas night, everything seemed normal. The Ramseys visited friends. They came home late. Everyone went to bed. But by morning, JonBenét was gone. 5:52 a.m. Patsy Ramsey calls 911. Her voice is shaking, hysterical. "We have a kidnapping. There's a note left and our daughter is gone." Police rush to the scene. A ransom note had been found at the bottom of the staircase. It was bizarre, 2.5 pages long, demanding $118,000. A strange amount, almost exactly what John Ramsey had received as a bonus that year. The note claimed to be from a foreign faction. Said not to call the police. But Patsy had already called. Officers searched the house, but not thoroughly. It was Christmas. A wealthy neighborhood. A well-respected family. They assumed the child had been kidnapped and was already gone. But at 1:05 p.m., John Ramsey makes a shocking discovery. He goes into the basement. There, in a little room hidden behind a door, he finds her. JonBenét, dead, wrapped in a white blanket, duct tape over her mouth, a garrote made from a paintbrush twisted around her neck. Her hands were bound above her head. He picks her up, carries her upstairs. Chaos erupts. Everything falls apart in minutes. Police let friends roam the house. They touch things, move objects, even clean up. Evidence is destroyed. The basement, the actual crime scene, is contaminated. It takes hours before a forensic team arrives. By then, it's too late. The note had strange phrases, oddly theatrical, as if copied from a movie script. Phrases like, "Listen carefully," and "victory." Some believed it was staged. But why would a real kidnapper leave a note then not take the child? Suspicion immediately turned inward. From day one, 3 main theories took root. 1. An intruder. 2. Patsy Ramsey. 3. Burke Ramsey, JonBenét's 9-year-old brother. The intruder theory pointed to a broken window in the basement. Possible footprint in the dust. A suitcase placed under the window, as if someone had used it to climb out. But no fingerprints, no DNA, nothing conclusive. Then there was Patsy. The handwriting on the ransom note appeared similar to hers. Some experts said it matched. Others disagreed. The note was oddly personal. It referenced the exact amount of John's bonus. It was written inside the house. Why would a kidnapper take the time to write a long note with pen and paper from inside the home? And then, there was Burke. People whispered. Maybe there had been a sibling fight. Maybe he snapped. Maybe the parents covered for him. He was only 9. But some questioned his behavior. In interviews, he appeared calm, detached, too calm. As days passed, the media descended on Boulder like vultures. Every news anchor wanted the scoop. Paparazzi camped outside the Ramseys' home. The public turned from sympathy to suspicion. Why weren't the parents cooperating? Why hadn't they taken lie detector tests? Why did John Ramsey fly the family to Atlanta just days after the murder? It looked bad, very bad. In January, just a few weeks later, the Ramseys went on CNN. They pleaded with the public. "There's a killer on the loose," John said. "We didn't do this," Patsy added, holding back tears. But people weren't convinced. The coroner released a report. JonBenét had been struck on the head. Hard. There was a deep fracture in her skull. She had also been strangled. There were signs of possible sexual assault. 2 forms of trauma. But which came first? That question haunted investigators. The head injury could have killed her. But the strangulation? It looked methodical, calculated, too adult. Was this a crime of passion? Or a staged cover-up? Experts couldn't agree. Time passed. Weeks turned into months. The trail went cold. There were no arrests, no confessions, no answers. But in the background, something was growing. The theory that maybe the real killer had never left the house. December 26, 1996. Morning broke cold and quiet over Boulder, Colorado. But inside the Ramsey home, nothing was quiet. Patsy Ramsey raced down the spiral staircase just after 5:30 a.m. screaming. Her voice pierced the silence. Her words were frantic. "She's gone. JonBenét is gone." John Ramsey, still in his robe, tried to make sense of it. A ransom note sat on the bottom steps. 3 pages. Handwritten. Demanding $118,000. Exactly the amount of John's recent bonus. The note claimed JonBenét was taken by a foreign faction. It was bizarre, chilling, and it made no sense. Patsy had called 911 moments earlier. That call would later become critical. Police arrived minutes later, but almost immediately, the investigation veered off course. The home wasn't sealed off. Friends and neighbors came in and out. Potential evidence was trampled. Officers searched the house, but not thoroughly. They didn't find JonBenét. Not until later. Not until 1 p.m., when John Ramsey, supposedly searching on his own, opened the door to the basement wine cellar. And there she was, JonBenét, lying on the floor, wrapped in a white blanket, duct tape over her mouth, a cord around her neck, dead. He carried her upstairs. He sobbed. Patsy collapsed. But by then, the crime scene was ruined. JonBenét's body had been moved, evidence contaminated. And the questions? They began piling up immediately. Why didn't police search the entire home from the beginning? Why did John find her before they did? Why was the ransom note so long, so strange, and left behind? It wasn't just the note that felt off. The entire discovery felt staged. The garrote used on JonBenét was made from items in the house. So was the pad the note was written on. Experts believed the note had been written after the murder. But why? Was it to throw off police? To buy time? Or was it something more sinister? A cover-up? Theories split immediately. One group believed it was an intruder, a stranger who broke in, committed the murder, and escaped unnoticed. But the home showed no signs of forced entry. Others pointed to the Ramseys themselves, that maybe the ransom note wasn't written by a kidnapper. Maybe it was written by someone in the house, someone who knew the bonus amount, someone trying to lead police down the wrong path. Handwriting experts were brought in. Patsy's writing was compared to the note. Some said it matched. Others said it didn't. It was inconclusive. And that became a theme in the case. Inconclusive. Fibers from Patsy's clothes were found on the duct tape. JonBenét's body showed signs of possible sexual assault. DNA was recovered, but it didn't match anyone in the family. That DNA became a cornerstone of the intruder theory. But other experts claimed it could have been transfer DNA. Contamination. Meanwhile, Boulder police were overwhelmed. They weren't equipped for a case this high-profile. FBI profilers clashed with local detectives. The district attorney's office disagreed with law enforcement. The Ramseys hired lawyers, spokespeople, media consultants. They stopped cooperating fully with police. And the media circus exploded. Tabloids ran wild. Every detail of JonBenét's short life was put on display. Her pageant photos, her beauty queen dresses. TV shows speculated daily. And through it all, the crime scene, the truth was fading. Important early mistakes made it nearly impossible to go back. The basement had been cleaned. Evidence was handled by dozens of people. The autopsy revealed skull fracture and strangulation. 2 distinct causes of death. But which came first? The head injury or the strangulation? Could one have been staged? And if so, by who? As investigators battled each other, leads slipped away. No fingerprints, no confession, no justice, just more theories. Was it an accident covered up by the family? A sibling fight gone wrong? A predator who slipped in and out like a ghost? No one knew, but everyone had a theory, and the truth, whatever it was buried beneath it all. For more chilling true crime stories, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. December 26, 1996, the day after Christmas. The Ramseys' Boulder home had been filled with joy, laughter, holiday lights, gifts wrapped in shiny paper, then silence, then panic, and then a mystery that would haunt a nation. JonBenét Ramsey was gone. Patsy Ramsey had found a ransom note. 3 pages, handwritten, demanding $118,000, almost the exact amount of John Ramsey's Christmas bonus. It was bizarre, wordy, dramatic, and unlike any ransom note investigators had seen. But the strangeness didn't stop there. When police arrived, they didn't secure the crime scene properly. The house was full of friends and family. People moved freely, touching things, comforting one another, unknowingly destroying potential evidence. Then, 7 hours later, John Ramsey made a discovery. In the basement, he opened a little-used storage room, and there she was, JonBenét, lying on the floor, covered with a white blanket, her mouth duct-taped, a garrote made from a broken paintbrush and a cord wrapped around her neck, her wrists loosely bound. She was dead. Everything changed. Police began to focus their attention. But it wasn't on an intruder. It wasn't on a kidnapping gone wrong. It was on the Ramseys themselves. From almost the moment her body was found, the Boulder Police Department believed the killer was already inside the house. The reasons? The ransom note. Too long. Too theatrical. Experts believed it had been written inside the house, using the Ramseys' own pen and paper. That alone was chilling. Then there was the fact that JonBenét was found inside the home. No signs of forced entry. No footprints in the snow outside. How could a kidnapper break in, murder a child, write a long note, and vanish without a trace? Police had questions, and they wanted answers. John and Patsy were cooperative at first, but things soon became strained. Their lawyers intervened. Interviews were delayed. Statements seemed rehearsed. And then came the inconsistencies. Patsy claimed she woke up early and went straight downstairs, where she discovered the ransom note. But fibers from the same clothing she wore that morning were found on the duct tape around JonBenét's mouth. John's behavior was also odd. He carried his daughter's body upstairs before police could examine the scene. Some saw that as a grieving father's instinct. Others saw it as a deliberate move to hide or manipulate evidence. And then there was Burke, JonBenét's older brother, just 9 years old at the time. Police were hesitant to question him. So were his parents. But rumors swirled that maybe Burke had something to do with her death. That maybe it was an accident. That the ransom note was a cover-up. No one knew for sure, but suspicion grew. As the months passed, media coverage exploded. The Ramseys hired public relations experts. They appeared on CNN, gave interviews, pleaded their innocence. But to many watching at home, their appearances raised more doubts than sympathy. Why weren't they emotional? Why didn't they show more urgency? Why were they so focused on clearing their names? Some believed Patsy wrote the note. Others believed John was hiding something. Every glance, every word, every photo was analyzed. And yet there was no smoking gun, no DNA match, no confession, no arrest, just a cloud of suspicion. The grand jury convened in 1999. And here's the twist. They voted to indict the Ramseys. But the district attorney refused to press charges. Why? He said there wasn't enough evidence to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. So the case stalled, and JonBenét's killer remained free. As the years passed, the case went cold. Tips slowed down. Leads dried up. The Ramseys moved out of Colorado. Patsy battled ovarian cancer. She passed away in 2006, still insisting she was innocent. still demanding justice for her daughter. John Ramsey kept a low profile, occasionally appearing in interviews, still grieving, still defending his family. Then came a bombshell. 10 years after JonBenét's death, a man named John Mark Carr claimed he had killed her. He was arrested in Thailand, brought back to the US. The media erupted. Was this it? Was this finally the break? No, Carr's story didn't line up. DNA didn't match. He was delusional, a man obsessed with the case. Just another cruel twist. Hope shattered once again, and still no justice. But something was coming, a development that would change everything. Something hiding in the evidence all along. For 10 years, JonBenét Ramsey's murder remained a fog, a brutal mystery, a broken family, and a town haunted by what happened that snowy night in 1996. Then, in 2008, something shifted. Silently, scientifically, the kind of shift that should have solved everything. But instead, it made the case even stranger. In the years after JonBenét's death, investigators collected hundreds of pieces of evidence. Hair, fibers, blood, clothing, tape, the garrote, and inside JonBenét's underwear, a tiny amount of foreign DNA. It didn't match her. It didn't match her parents. It didn't match her brother. It was male. It was unknown. And for a decade, it sat there untested with modern tools. Then, in 2008, the Colorado Bureau of Investigation used a more advanced DNA test, touch DNA. It looks for skin cells left behind when someone touches something, even briefly, and they found something. That same unknown male DNA was also found on JonBenét's long johns, the pair she wore over her underwear. 2 separate articles, 2 different spots, same male DNA. It was a match. The result was immediate. The Boulder District Attorney at the time, Mary Lacey, wrote a formal apology. She cleared the Ramseys completely. She said the DNA proved they weren't involved, that it pointed to an unknown intruder. The Ramseys were relieved. John Ramsey told reporters, "It's a relief, but it's not justice," because JonBenét's killer was still free. While the DNA seemed to exonerate the family, not everyone agreed. Former detectives, journalists, even some scientists, they raised serious questions. Was the DNA really from the killer? Or was it something else? Something more mundane? One theory, it could have come from the manufacturing process. Clothing is made in factories, touched by workers, packed and shipped by hand. Could the DNA belong to someone who handled the underwear during production? Was it transferred? Or was it planted? Some experts said the DNA evidence wasn't strong enough, that it couldn't be trusted to clear anyone or convict anyone. It wasn't blood. It wasn't semen. It wasn't in large amounts. It was skin cells, so light, so easily transferred, so easy to contaminate. And there was more. The FBI uploaded the unknown male DNA into CODIS, the National Criminal Database. But no match. Not one. Years passed. Still nothing. And that silence raised more questions. If JonBenét was murdered by a stranger, where was he? Why hadn't he been arrested for anything else? Why was there no trace? And if it wasn't a stranger, what did that mean? Theories began to swirl. Again, some thought the killer was dead. Others believed he was still out there, just extremely careful. But a darker theory began to rise. What if the DNA wasn't from the killer? What if this whole time, everyone had been chasing a ghost? In 2016, on the 20th anniversary of JonBenét's murder, media interest exploded again. Documentaries, podcasts, TV specials. One of them, CBS's The Case of JonBenét Ramsey, made headlines. A team of experts came together. Former FBI agents, profilers, forensics specialists. They reviewed every detail, every photo, every statement, and their conclusion: it wasn't an intruder. They believed it was someone inside the house, someone young. They believed Burke Ramsey, JonBenét's older brother, may have struck her in anger, that the blow to her head came first, that the rest, the garrote, the note, was staged, to look like a kidnapping, to cover up an accident. They said the ransom note had language a child might overhear from movies, that the phrase foreign faction was unusual, something a child might misinterpret, that Burke had shown signs of aggression. They theorized he struck JonBenét with a flashlight during an argument over pineapple. It was a theory, not a charge, not proof, but it exploded across the internet. Burke sued CBS for $750 million. They settled quietly, but the damage was done. People started asking the old questions again. Did the Ramseys hide something? Was the DNA evidence flawed? Was the killer closer than anyone imagined? By 2018, forensic science had entered a new era. DNA could now be used for genetic genealogy. As how the Golden State Killer was caught. You take unknown DNA. You upload it to genealogy databases. You look for relatives. Then you build a family tree. Find your suspect. And arrest. Could it work for JonBenét? Investigators said they were looking into it. But nothing happened. No new announcements. No confirmed uploads. No matches. Just more silence. More frustration. Over the years, the Ramsey case has passed through many hands. The Boulder Police, the District Attorney's Office, private investigators, federal experts. Each group had its own theories, its own evidence, but they rarely worked together. Some shared files, others didn't. It became territorial, political mess. And in the middle of it all, a 6-year-old girl, murdered. No justice, no resolution. In late 2022, a group of citizens wrote a public letter to the governor of Colorado. They begged him to take action, to force the police to use genetic genealogy, to bring in independent experts, to stop letting bureaucracy delay justice. The governor responded. He promised to do everything he could. But once again, nothing changed. The Boulder Police said they were working with the Colorado Cold Case Review Team. They said they were actively reviewing JonBenét Ramsey, a name that haunts America. Almost 3 decades have passed. And still no justice, no answers, no peace. This is more than a cold case. It's a national obsession. But why? Why can't we look away? Why won't this case fade into history like so many others? Because it has everything. A wealthy family, a beautiful child, a horrific crime, a baffling scene, a city in shock, and 1,000 unanswered questions. Since 1996, over 140 people have confessed to killing JonBenét Ramsey. Yes, you read that right. 140. Why would anyone confess to a crime they didn't commit? Some wanted attention. Some were mentally ill. Some were obsessed with the case. Each confession took up valuable time. Investigators would run tests, check alibis, compare handwriting, run DNA, and each time it ended the same way. False. No match. No arrest. No progress. Every dead-end confession delayed the truth and deepened the tragedy. There were suspects outside the Ramsey family, but they rarely made headlines. One was a local electrician. He had a criminal record, lived near the Ramseys. He was interviewed, but never arrested. Another was a former housekeeper, fired by the family months before the murder. She sued the Ramseys for defamation after being named in their book. There was a Santa Claus impersonator. He had played Santa at the Ramseys' Christmas parties. He adored JonBenét, kept a vial of glitter she gave him. Creepy? Yes. But nothing tied him to the crime. Every suspect came with a theory, but none came with proof. No fingerprints, no DNA, no confession that held up. For years, Burke Ramsey stayed silent. But in 2016, he gave a rare interview to Dr. Phil. He was calm, smiling, nervous. Many viewers were unsettled. He laughed at odd moments, spoke in a strange rhythm, seemed disconnected from the topic. To some, it was a sign of guilt. To others, it was just a man uncomfortable in front of cameras. Theories about Burke remain, fueled by documentaries, fueled by internet sleuths, fueled by that strange ransom note. But again, no charges, no evidence strong enough to arrest. Few cases have been dissected like this one. Every detail has been analyzed. Reddit threads, YouTube videos, books, podcasts. The public has become a jury, a mob, an army of amateur detectives. Some mean well, some don't. The result? Noise. Loud, endless, confusing noise. This buried real leads. This hurt real people. And yet, it's also kept the case alive. Without the public's obsession, would anyone still care? Would JonBenét be forgotten? It's a double-edged sword. Awareness versus chaos. We talk about justice. We talk about clues. But we forget about the weight, the pain. John Ramsey lost a daughter. He lost a wife to cancer. He lost his privacy, his reputation. He still fights for the truth, still pleads for answers. But he knows time is running out. The investigators who worked the original case, many have retired. The witnesses, older. The evidence, aging. The window for solving this is closing. Fast. Yes. Genetic genealogy solved the Golden State Killer case. Could solve this one too. But the Boulder police have not confirmed if they've used it. Why? Red tape, pride, lack of resources. The truth is, it could work. But someone has to push for it. Hard. Every year that passes, the odds get worse. She was 6 years old. She loved performing, loved glitter, loved singing. She was not a beauty queen stereotype. She was a child who deserved to grow up. Instead, she became a symbol, a case, a mystery. She became headlines, and documentaries, and podcast episodes. But behind all that, a little girl, gone. That's the pain at the center of this story. It's not just about solving a crime. It's about honoring a life. Maybe one day DNA will match. Maybe one day someone will talk. Or maybe the killer will die with the truth. That's the cruel thing about cold cases. They don't close on their own. Someone has to care. Someone has to keep digging. So for more chilling true crime stories, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel.